Willis, Bowman, and Warner. Start again.
Right. So I kind of lost my place. So let's start again.
Start again.
So what I was basically saying was that I think that Patrick Willis from day one was the best linebacker in the NFL. And by the time he retired, he was maybe the second or third best linebacker, but he was still right there. And there was a period of 4 or 5 years in between where you said who's the best linebacker in football, and there was no conversation. It was Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
The thing with Fred Warner is that I don't think you can unanimously say that. And who I wanted to mention was that Tampa Bay has the best defense in football, and there's a guy who's quietly put together a borderline Hall of Fame career in Tampa Bay that hasn't gotten credit for years, and I think that he should be talked about, and he's at the very least in the same conversation as Fred Warner, and that's Lavonte David. Lavonte David is a superstar. Lavonte David is a stud, and he's been a stud forever.
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect to Fred Warner to be in the same conversation as Lavonte David. That means you're really good. With Navarro Bowman, where I take a little bit of umbrage to what you said, is that you said that he's never done what Fred Warner is doing currently. But if you go back to 2013, the year the Niners made the NFC Championship game, there were a lot of defensive starters in and out, whether it was Patrick Willis, right? They had games, 2012, sure. I know Larry
Patrick Willis in particular.
Right.
And then Aldon Smith, that's when the downward spiral started for Aldon Smith.
Right. Aldon Smith was in and out. Ray McDonald was in and out. He only started 14 games that season. Justin Smith only started 12 games. And that was not the same secondary, or it wasn't close to being as good as the same secondary, because Carlos Rogers was pretty much not the same player. Terrell Brown, I think Terrell Brown got hurt that season. That was the year Tremaine Brock emerged as the starting outside corner next to Terrell Brown. So it was not, and Deshaun Goldson left and was replaced by rookie Eric Reed. And that defense still carried that football team. And that was because they had a guy who deserved to win Defensive Player of the Year that year. And he didn't win it because of West Coast.
East Coast bias.
Right. And Kuechly is a great player, but that was Navarro Bowman's Defensive Player of the Year to lose. He should have won it. He was an All-Pro that year, and he was probably the best defensive player in football that year. Now, Fred Warner has looked like that, I think, about 7 games into this season. But let's wait till the season finishes before we put Fred Warner in the same spot as the bad man that Navarro Bowman was and this type of superstar he was.
Well, I think it's interesting to compare, like the context you give for Patrick Willis is that he stepped into the league, the man, left the league, the man. That's not going to be Fred Warner. Fred Warner has evolved and improved. He's more like Navarro Bowman, who was on the bench the first year and blossomed in his second year. Even Bowman, though, was such a superstar that second year. The thing, I think it's like we're comparing 3 of the best linebackers it's early to call Fred Warner that, but you're comparing Fred Warner to 2 guys who have no weaknesses. So we're splitting hairs. Let's compare skill sets. The reason that I say that I'm even bringing this up is that I feel like what we're seeing from Fred Warner is a skill set that's kind of new, or at least new to me. Saleh is using him in ways that Vic Fangio didn't use Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. And I'll explain. You can do a lot with those 2. They were great. But what Saleh's doing right now, you put Fred Warner on Julian Edelman, say, or Hollywood Brown, whoever's in the slot, and the quarterback pre-snap looks at that and says, linebacker on my slot receiver zone. I don't know, so it's going to be cover 3, cover 4, whatever. And then play starts, and it's man. Because Robert Saleh trusts Fred Warner to cover literally anyone in the league, any wide receiver, any athlete. He did it in college. He's that kind of player. And so he's so good in coverage. He's allowing the defense to disguise what it's doing, and it makes the pass rush better. It makes the other coverage people better. It's a unique skill set. Maybe you've seen someone do it before, but Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman didn't do that. They did other things great.
Right. Okay. So this is a fair thing, and it's definitely real. Like, go rewatch the Ravens game from last year. Fred Warner, when Hollywood Brown was the number 3 receiver inside, Fred Warner had him in man coverage for a lot of that game. He did it yesterday with Edelman for portions. So this is definitely a very real point. What I'll say to that is that it's a lot more of, I think, the evolution of the NFL and Fred Warner's skill set rather than a knock on Patrick Willis. Like, you can make that comparison. Like, Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey are currently doing things that we didn't see Adrian Peterson do as receivers.
Right.
But Adrian Peterson from day one, like Patrick Willis, was the best running back in football, and he was that for many years at a level of dominance that we don't see from either Christian McCaffrey nor Alvin Kamara.
And I know Niner fans look at it like if you compare anyone to Patrick Willis or DeVar Bowman, one, it's sacrilegious. Two, it's an implied knock on both of them. And what I want to say is I'm not knocking either one. I'm just trying to pump up Warner. But comparing him to them is the ultimate compliment because those two had no weaknesses, zero. They were the best. And watching them warm up and practice alongside each other was kind of amazing. You'd be like, geez, these are the two prototypes in the world for this position practicing side by side. It's amazing.
And real quick, one more point. Like Fred Warner, to me, yeah, he does have this role in man coverage, but I think that he's protected in the sense that they do it based on formational looks and where he is on the field.
Sure.
With Patrick Willis, there was a lot more, especially when Vic Fangio first came. They just put him on top of the tight end the way a corner covers wide receiver, and they said, you have him in man coverage, take him.
Right, because they played so much two-man. They didn't want to put Dante Whitner on in that matchup because he was 5'10". So Willis, hey, you're on him, buddy.
And that's it.
That was a tough matchup. Yeah. That's true. That was special to watch. I miss watching Patrick Willis.
Right.
It's still too bad that he retired. And I still believe that if Jim Harbaugh had kept the job or they'd given it to Vic Fangio instead of Tom Sula, that Willis would have stayed on the team. But I can't support that. It's just a hunch. Him and Justin Smith. Remember that mass exodus in 2015? Yeah.